Greetings, everyone. My name is Jonathan Bailey, and I'm from the site Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com. And today, I want to talk a little bit about an article I was featured in over the weekend. I just found out yesterday that an article in which I'd been I don't want to say working on, I really hadn't done that much, but I was involved with for a couple of weeks, was published in the Republic, which is a newspaper in Arizona. Basically, the article, which I've actually got a printed copy of here, so if I'm looking down at my notes, you'll know what's going on. It features a history professor at Arizona State University named Matthew Whitaker. And Matthew Whitaker, according to this article, was investigated for plagiarism. It was apparently what happened is he was recommended for a promotion to full professor. Some other professors at the school didn't like this. They began digging around his history, and they found many instances of what they believed to be was academic dishonesty and plagiarism, and brought those to the attention of the school, and the school did not respond. Excuse me. But basically, the reporter in this article, Ann Ryman, contacted me and said, asked me what I thought about a particular case. Just one of the cases. There's apparently, according to this article, there's about 10 cases. I was unaware of most of these. But one case in particular that involved a speech he gave in 2010 regarding a controversial Arizona immigration law, which I believe had just passed at the time. But long story short, she asked me to compare that speech to two articles, which it was believed to be plagiarized from, and I found just on the human analysis, just by basically watching the speech and reading along, that there were significant unattributed passages spoken verbatim from these two articles. The first article was copied almost wholesale, almost the entire article was taken, and no attribution at all was provided to it. And the second one, there was attribution provided to the author, but it kind of was really bizarre because he quoted verbatim for a while and said in the words of so-and-so, and then gave a brief blurb that was supposed to be a direct quote, and then continued quoting verbatim afterwards. So wholly inadequate attribution on the second, I guess, be a way to put it. You can actually get more information on this in the article. So I'm going to have the article link in the show notes, and I'll see if I can dig up that a YouTube video and the reference links as well. But long story short, after watching, I said, well, I'd feel more comfortable giving you some input if I could do a more detailed if I could do an automated analysis of it. So I had my significant other, Crystal. She does transcription work as part of her job. She transcribed the speech. I took that, ran it through a plagiarism checker called WCopyFind, and got some percentages. I found that about 30% of the speech was copied verbatim, and much more was copied and closely paraphrased from these two sources. And if you removed interjections and things he kind of did in the spur of the moment, it would have been a much higher percentage too. So, long story short, very high percentage. This case frustrates me, though, for two reasons, and I'm going on the updates here in the article. First is that Professor Whitaker seems to have played the race card, and I hate to put it like that, but basically, here's an actual quote, once again, from the article from Professor Whitaker, or actually a quote from the article, I should say. It doesn't really quote him directly, except briefly. In a letter to ASU during the investigation, he says accusers were, quote-unquote, out to get me because he is black, and they resented his promotion last year to full professor. So go to the original article right now, and he actually repeats this allegation that racism played a role in the allegations against him. Go read the article, look at the comments. When I was last there yesterday, the thread below, the thread in the comments, is almost entirely about race. No real useful discussion about plagiarism, no real discussion about academic dishonesty. All about plagiarism, all about race, and the entire point of the article completely left. And it's interesting because later in the article, it seems that Whitaker acknowledges, once again from the article, that he had used the content inappropriately, saying, from the speech, just referring to the speech, I intended to mention the two sources that I used, but in the passion of the moment, I think I forgot one name and mentioned the other. So yeah, you did forget to cite your sources in that one. And I'm not saying necessarily that this alone deserves, being booted as a professor and having your academic career ruined. It could very easily been a mistake. It's very difficult giving attribution of speeches. I understand there's a lot of variables here that sort of mitigate. I'm not recommending him for, losing his position. I just think that there needs to be more thorough investigation. ASU has already considered this matter closed. And this is the other element that's frustrating. They consider the matter closed. They brought it before a tribunal of 3 history professors, 2 from the school, 1 from outside, and they decided that plagiarism had not occurred. And this is where I kind of have to just say I have done a lot of work over the years in these cases of academic plagiarism, both working for students who I believe were falsely accused of plagiarism and working for schools wanting a sort of independent third-party analysis. I've done both sides of these arguments, but I've got to say this. I've never seen what I consider to be a remotely fair trial in academic plagiarism. Ever. Maybe it's, my personal bias here. Maybe it's the fact I'm only brought in on cases, which there's going to be bias. Even in the cases where I won, even in the cases where I was on the winning side, it felt like the decision was predetermined and I was just there to back things up. I mean, I felt as if, fortunately in those cases I felt like there was actual plagiarism, but I felt like even if I had come around and done my analysis, I found the complete opposite, that I would be ignored, I would have been paid, ignored, and the same thing would happen. I never got the impression it was a completely fair trial. And going back to the race allegations here, it all comes down to race. It comes not to race, but to politics in a lot of cases. Schools want to put these cases behind them as quickly as possible. They make their decisions, they stick to them, and they hold to them until they're forced, oftentimes in a court of law, to change their minds. And race, political orientation, general personal grudge, these are all reasons that people have their plagiarism histories investigated, and they're not good reasons, I'm going to say that straight, but sometimes you can uncover something like that. I mean, we're going to go through this in a big way in the next few months, by the way. Just pay attention over the next, 6 months or so, because with the upcoming presidential election in the United States, I fully expect, one of the candidates to be accused of plagiarism. It's just going to happen. And so it's just on the myriad of reasons people get investigated for plagiarism, and it's not necessarily a good one. And the problem is, while you can sometimes, start a discussion for a bad reason, if you have the discussion and you continue in a good way, something positive can come out of it. But it seems like the reason and the mentality that the accusation comes from carries straight through to the end. These students are going to be, we don't like these students, so we're going to expel them. It doesn't matter if they plagiarized or not. They found something they can latch the hooks into, it's done. This professor is being accused of plagiarism, but we really like him. Well, it doesn't matter what he's done. He's our president, he's our whatever. So I guess what I'm saying is, while it's unfortunate and regrettable that sometimes plagiarism allegations come about for the wrong reasons, they still have to be dealt with in the right way. Ignoring them or forcing them through because of the way where they came from is not the solution. The way to deal with plagiarism allegations is to thoroughly investigate them and come up with an unbiased and a really good recommendation. So there needs to be a way to do this within the academic system, and I don't have an answer for this one, and I'm way over my time. But my hope is that someday, we can have a sort of a fair trial system for these issues, and we can actually deal with them in an appropriate manner. Because right now, the system's a mess, where personal biases, personal prejudices can seep in and can completely destroy the authenticity of any investigation. So I don't know. It's a lot of rambling here. I know I didn't say a whole lot. I'm just really frustrated by this case, and I really was hoping a better conversation could come out of it. But it looks like, between Professor Whitaker's effort and the school's effort, we're not going to see that. It's just going to be a conversation about race and its implication here, rather than a conversation about plagiarism. Well, on that note, everyone, I've talked too long, so this is Jonathan Bailey, signing off.